So, I mean, let's talk about decline rates, shall we? Because in this article, you were saying, you've added up all the projects and you've got 25 million barrels a day coming on stream, but you're looking at 35. So, I mean, that sounds to me like peak oil. Is it?
Now, what we have done is that we look at the oil demand growth. Oil demand will increase substantially in the next years to come, mainly driven by China and India, developing countries. The question is, where will the supply come from? And what we have done is between now and 2015, for the next 7-8 years, we have looked at all the projects which are financially sanctioned in all the countries in the world. There are about 230. And when we add them all together, if we all assume that all of these projects will see the light of the day, they will bring something like 25 million barrels per day. And on top of that, you have to see that there's a lot of declining fields. So in order to match the demand and the supply, we have to put, according to our analysis, an additional at least 12.5 million barrels per day in order to maintain the existing fields, compensate the decline, and meet the growth in the demand. And it is a big number, 12.5 million barrels per day. It means adding a Saudi Arabia in 7 years, which is a big challenge for all of us.
You would have thought that the projects over the next 7 years are the projects that are going to happen. I mean, there aren't going to be any more suddenly just appear, are there? So really that 12.5 isn't, do you think that 12.5 actually is going to happen, or do you think that we are actually going to hit peak oil, a plateau, in the next 7 years?
We are facing a serious threat. We can hit a wall within the next 7-8 years of time if we do not worldwide follow one of these two policies. Either we have to slow down the oil demand growth, especially in China, India, and United States, or we have to put new projects in place quickly and in substantial terms. But looking at the past performance of the efficiency improvements on the demand side in US, India, and China, looking at the how quickly the new projects come on stream, I am rather I should find a good word. I am not on the optimistic side as the things stand now.
Okay, I mean, the big question, of course, is the Middle East and OPEC. Why, if you look at what happened in the US and the rest of the OECD, they hit a peak, then they declined. If that happens in Saudi Arabia, they're just going to be left with a pile of sand and, whatever it is, 25 million people or whatever. Or they've got a rapidly growing population. It will be disaster. What I saw in Kuwait, there's a lot of political problems starting because they're worried about peak oil now in Kuwait. Why would the Middle East countries and OPEC increase production when they're getting a good price for what they're producing now, and it will just speed up their declines?
I think there is a new world oil order. The supply side is changing we see a big transformation on the supply side. The role of international oil companies are diminishing very quickly, the majors, because their reserves are declining and they have no access to reserves in Middle East. They can't invest because it is forbidden by law in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere that the foreigners can invest. So the power goes to the hands of the national oil companies and the key producing countries in Middle East. So even if they have the reserves, those countries, they may not want to increase the production as much as the consumers we would like to see, because this is not necessarily in line with their national interests. What they would like to see is to make money from oil as long as possible. Before IEA, I worked at the OPEC Secretariat several years, and I know that every oil man There are very few oil women. Every oil man in Middle East have something in their mind to leave their natural endowment for the next generations, which is a very legitimate thought. Therefore, I believe to expect huge increases from the key producing countries in the next years to come, especially with this high price environment, will be too optimistic. And therefore, again, another signal that we will live with troubled markets, oil markets, for many years to come.
Okay, so, I mean, looking outside of OPEC, I think most people are now starting to say that non-OPEC production is about to hit a peak. So, and probably will decline in the near future as well. Do you think that? And if it does, does that not signal peak oil?
We think that the non-OPEC production, the conventional non-OPEC production, will peak in the next 2-3 years of time, and then afterwards have a plateau and decline. If the global oil demand were to be met, it needs to be met by the increase in the Middle East OPEC countries. So looking at the picture, there is perhaps enough oil reserves in the key Middle East countries, but whether or not this will help to meet the global oil demand growth is a question mark. And this question mark has a couple of components. Will they invest? For example, some big countries have the money, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, but are they going to put money there? Or some of them, will they be able to invest, such as Iran, a different case. In Iran, they don't have the domestic capital. They have to get foreign direct investments, but the political conjuncture they are in may not allow for them to get access to the foreign money, foreign capital. Will they be able to do that? So from that point of view, I think to have real increases in the global oil production capacity will be harder and harder because they have to meet these increases will have to meet the growth in the oil demand and to compensate the decline in the non-OPEC production. So there are two huge challenges, and the pressure is on the key OPEC producing countries for the time being.